So how many of you heard the talks last 3 days since Shankara Jayanti? How many heard? So many heard. How many thought about it, contemplated on it? Some more hands to How many spoke or discussed it or deliberated upon it? A lot of people. And how many did something about it? Good. Numbers have increased. It's easy to hear, difficult to contemplate, more difficult to deliberate, and most difficult to act upon. So you have at least improved. So one day's teaching has helped. See, as good, you cannot be good bhajan singers without purity in your mind. How can you be? You get tape recorder, you are there. Great, technically great. Play the tape record. Does it create bhakti? Why there should be a live performance of bhajans? Because it's not just conveying the music to people or the words to people or lyrics to people. It's the feelings to people that you are conveying. So in the aura of that feeling, others also feel the same divine vibrations. That is why we have to have live bhajan, live Veda. Many temples I go, they put a tape recorder, it will keep chanting all the time, some mantra. That is not the way. Because you are humans, we are capable of expressing our feelings. That is what is given to us more than other animals. Consciousness. We can realize that and express that. So I'm happy. So how was your effort? You observed your mind? And do you realize what kind of mind it is? Tamasic, Rajasic or Sattvic mind? Or a mixed khichdi of everything. First 2 minutes, Sattvic. Next 2 minutes, Rajasic. Third minute, flat, vertical to horizontal. Was it like that? It would have been for some at least. Sort of sleepy, I'm feeling a little sleepy. Is it? Earlier sages were there. They will sit on a plank with nails on it or on thorny bushes just to keep themselves awake so that they don't fall asleep. Tamas doesn't take over their sadhana. All kinds of things they would do. I'm not saying you have to do all these things. But be conscious. Be conscious as to what your mind is doing. So 1 week is only observing the mind. I'm not even saying observe your breath, observe what the neighbor's breath. Nothing. Just observe your mind. Mind your mind. First week. Second week is focus on, now you start, focus on your breath, where your breath is going and where the mind is, how both are connected to each other. Can you control the vagaries of the mind by controlling your breath? Not choke yourself to death. So we have to put ventilator on you. Not that kind of holding breath, just slowing down. See, if you're practicing music and you miss it 1 or 2 swaras, what do? Slow down. Isn't it? You tell slowly, let's take swara by swara, so that we get it right. If you suddenly sing a whole thing, it will not be right. So that is how. Slow down your breath and watch your mind. Observing the mind doesn't go away. You're still observing the mind, but now in combination with the breath, because prana and mana are connected. So you observe, you slow down. When mind runs too much, slow down your breath and see if it's settling down a bit. Isn't it? You can also observe what thoughts are coming. Has it improved from the last week, or is it the same, or it's got worse? Whatever. Third week, what are you going to do? Remove all the other distractions in the mirror and keep focus on your forehead. That is what I said. You want to put a bindi, a bottu. Your face is also reflected. Your eyes are also reflected. Nose, mouth, ears are reflected. But what are you seeing? You're discarding all of the reflections and you're focusing on the forehead, because you have to put your vibhuti dot on the forehead. So discarding all other thoughts and trying to focus on one thought is the effort of the third week. It will come, it will go, it will come, it will go. But you keep repeating again and then again. Some point of time it will start. At least from watching your whole face, it will come down to just watching your eyes and the forehead. And slowly it will come to forehead, and slowly it will come to only that point where you have to put the bindi. So third week you are going to discard all the other thoughts and reflections and try to keep your mind focused on that one thought. This is the time when you should try to hold your breath for some time. I'm not saying you should hold your breath and suffocate yourselves. Hold your breath for some time. If mind becomes too agitated, just hold for a moment. You'll see mind will settle down as the paper or a dry leaf floating in the air settle down when the wind slows down. So that kind of effort you put the third week, removing all the distraction, focusing on one thought. Take any one thought. I say always, anybody asks me, give me one mantra, and I tell them, you chant, you are divine. I am divine. Or that is what in Sanskrit is Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma, Ayamatma Brahma. Whatever language you are, if you are Telugu, Nenu, Daivaswarupudu, that is enough. One story is there, one boy goes to the school and learns Aham Brahmasmi. Asks the teacher, what is the meaning of this statement, Aham Brahmasmi? And the teacher says, Aham Brahmasmi means I am God. Oh, I am God. That is nice meaning, he thinks. But he only doesn't understand. He only listens like many do. But he goes home and father asks him, what did you learn today? He said, my teacher taught me Aham Brahmasmi. That's wonderful. That's a teaching of the Vedas. What does it mean? Teacher is God, he said. Father says, no. Aham Brahmasmi means I am God. Oh, is it so? Then the teacher told me a lie. My father is God. Uncle comes and asks, so what did you learn today? Aham Brahmasmi. What does that mean? Oh, my father is God. He said, no, not father is God. It is I am God. Oh, my father also told a lie. Uncle alone is God. Uncle says, nothing can be done about you. You are too dull to learn anything. Then this boy feels very bad. What is this? One simple sentence I am not able to understand. So he asked, what should I do? He said, contemplate on this. It will reveal its meaning to you. So I always call rishis are mantra drishtas. Rik means Rik is the words of the rishi. Rik mantras are there. These mantras have been revealed to these rishis. Somebody wrote to me, when was the Vedas written? When was the Upanishads written? Some curious child. Truly they are apaurushayas. They have not been written by anybody. They have been received or they have been revealed by the divine in that rishi. And so many rishis, 400, 500 of them have received these at different points in time. And it was unorganized. It was everywhere. Till Veda Vyasa got it all together and probably he organized the same time as when Mahabharata and all were written. So our historians date back the written, the documented version, maybe 2500 BC or something like that. That may be the Veda Vyasa who tried to compile it during Krishna's times when he wrote Gita, Mahabharata. But time of Upanishads, Vedas, there is no particular. It may be thousands of years old. Some of the mantras might have been as early as the first human when he contemplated on what is all this. And the first thought that came to it, that Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. We don't know. So these are, don't worry about that. That was not the Indian culture at all. Somebody said the Indian culture is all about being. The Western culture is all about doing. They're very interested in the external Western thinking. Why this is, why not this, how they want to date, history, record it. That is their way. Indian way is experience. It doesn't matter where it comes from. The experience is important. Who got this message? When did he get it? They are not interested. They are interested in experiencing the message. So that is why there was no effort made to write it down or document. So anyways, coming to the third week, that is Aham Brahmasmi, or I am God, or Nenu Bhagavantudu, Nenu Daivaswarupudu. And whichever one you think like that. That is your third week's effort. 1 week if you sustain that effort. Fourth week, your mind will get subdued. It will not run here and there. And if it runs, you will know how to quickly control your breath and settle your mind down. And the moment you settle the mind down, again this thought will ring in your head. I am divine, I am divine. Now this I am divine thought has to reveal itself to you. So rishis had this revelation. They had an experience. And the experience was documented or worded as Aham Brahmasmi. The experience came first. And then came the word. Whereas for us what is happening, the word is coming first, it will take us to the experience. Both are same. See, a road that goes from here to Chikkaballapur brings us also back from Chikkaballapur to here. is the same road. The rishis got the experience and tried to describe what this experience was. And then they described it that everything is divine, or I am divine, or whichever way. So that is what their experience was. But also the secret lies in there. If you take this mantra and repeat it to yourself with focus and concentration and lot of shraddha in it, you believe that yesterday I told the biggest problem is we don't believe. The shraddha is the first aparadha, fault in our spiritual practice. So you believe that this is true. Even in science, you see, you take a hypothesis and then you experiment and repeat and repeat and repeat the experiment several times under several situations, and then the hypothesis is proven, it becomes the law. But the first step is hypothesis. Likewise, you think it is an hypothesis. Some rishi at some point of time told that everything is divine, even I am divine. I will take this as a hypothesis. I'll keep repeating it to myself till it starts slowly revealing itself to me. On its own. You don't have to put effort to reveal it to you. You just be there with great shraddha and repeat it to yourself. And one day or the other, it will suddenly reveal itself. Sputa, it will burst open and reveal to you what it is. So that is the power of every mantra, every thought. For mantras are nothing but thought. You keep thinking of the same thing, that is your mantra. So if you take that as serious effort for the 4th week, after a month you will see the changes in you. You may or may not have experienced immediate realization, but there would have been a moment or two in your meditations when you would have touched the shores of that immortality and come back. At least you had a peep into what it is like. And once you taste that, all the tastes of the world will become insipid. What he is saying, we run behind pleasures, we run behind happiness in the form of objects, people, relationships, name, fame. They all will look so faded. They won't taste at all good. They won't even appeal to you. Your senses, your mind, and all the pleasures that can be created by that will appear insipid in front of the experience of that self which the rishis have been talking about, we have been talking about. And as I said, the good part is that, suppose you have to even buy a kg of rice, you have to go to the stores or go to the market to get that and pay some price for it. Self-realization is free of cost. Absolutely free. You don't even have to move an inch from where you are. Self-realization is then and there where you are. You don't have to put any, in the sense financial or emotional or psychological or any kind of pressure on yourself. You don't even have to move from your place. As you are where you are, is there within you. Like I gave the example of the money lying in the pocket and you have forgotten and you are worried in the shop. How do I pay the bill? And then suddenly by chance you put your hand in the pocket and you find the money and you are relieved. The relief was always there in the pocket. You were not aware of it. You did not realize it. The moment you realize, the relief became relief. In the sense it gave you relief. Till then it was only namesake. So my talk is all namesake. Atman is there inside you that will relieve you of all your dualities and sufferings. It's like the money in the pocket which you don't utilize at all. Only when you put the hand and pull it out, you know how much money is there and what you can do with it. So that putting the hand and pulling out the money is the effort of these 4 weeks that I said. It's a very simple thing, but consistency is the key. If 2 days you do and 3rd day you say that today is a rest day, take it from me, that will be the unrest day. You will be most restless on that day because you did not do this. And I did not say, some people wrote to me, Swami, I want to wake up at 4:30, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I keep on telling, don't torture yourself. Spirituality is not a burden, it's not a torture. Most of the people take these extreme methods and then they give up saying spirituality is too difficult and it's not for me. So if somebody says, Swami, I cannot get up at 3:34, I said, don't get up at 3:34. I'm not worried about your physical awakening. I'm worried about your spiritual awakening. Even if you get up at 6, make sure that you take that time off from all the clutter of thoughts, all the activities before the day begins with too many things. Because once the day begins, you again cannot find that kind of a peaceful time unless you're doing nothing. But generally everybody is busy with something. At least it begins with meeting the next person. Let us At least it begins there. You'll first see the person next to you and start talking, and immediately the avarana has fallen again. It has covered your vision, clouded it, because now you are started identifying yourself with this body and that person with that body and that object and this object. So the experience of deep sleep that you came out with, your mind is still blank. That's why they say wake up early, so that you are come out of a stage where mind was very dormant. See, mind is very active in the waking stage. That is why it is difficult to control mind and go beyond. In dream stage, what happens? Mind is limited dominance it has on you. It still is active in Swapnavastha, dream state, it is still active. That is why you see the dreams. It creates worlds of its own, people and experiences of its own, though they don't matter to you. At the same time, the mind is engaged. That is this dream state. Deep sleep state, the mind becomes calm, dormant. So if you had had a good deep sleep and you wake up, mind is still dormant. And before it starts identifying itself with objects, people and situations, use that already weak mind to focus on divine thoughts. That will be very, very easy. Now music boys say they wake up early and practice in the early morning, because that practice in the early morning is 10 times more effective than practicing during the day sometime. That voice is at base level. You have not spoken for last 6-8 hours and voice is at the base level. You can do some base practice. That's what they say. Mandras, saptak, swaras, you can practice. And that you cannot do during the day. Once you had a nice breakfast and swaras won't come. What will come? Burps will come if you go mandra saptak. But swaras will be clear and precise when you practice in the morning. Why we do that? Because for last 6-7 hours we have been quiet, voice has settled down, it has rested well, and now you can use it correctly. It's not tired. Same thing applies to the mind. If you have come out of a good deep sleep, you are peaceful, you are calm, you are rested, your mind is dormant, and before it becomes too hyperactive, which is its nature, use it to teach something to it. That's all that is why early mornings are said. But suppose you have that kind of a capacity, you're not interacting with too many, you have self-isolated, and you are in your peaceful environment. It may happen any point of time of the day also. But once you open the eyes, the Jagrata Avastha kicks in, and it starts identifying itself with everything. Immediately the cover, which was parted momentarily in the deep sleep, covers it back. So now you cannot remove it. You have to put efforts to remove it. That's why many yogis preferred Brahma Muhurtam around 3:34, 4:30, that kind of time when world is asleep, there's no noise, and all other instincts have not kicked in, hunger and things like that. So that is the time when body is, and also after restful sleep. Suppose you haven't slept whole night, at 4 o'clock you cannot meditate. The restful sleep is important for body. So if you sleep early and take a good deep sleep, you'll wake up refreshed, and that moment you use this mind to focus on that. So morning. Otherwise, if it's at this stage, if it's not possible for you, please don't torture yourselves. Because with this kind of pain that you'll go through, by forcing yourself into something like this, 3 days max, 4th day you will not be doing this exercise. You like ignorance is bliss, I'd rather remain ignorant than get enlightened. That is, you'll get demotivated. So don't put yourself into extreme thing, but develop a habit over a period of time. Unwind over a period of time, all that you have wound yourself. But so that's all it is. You observe this 4 weeks. I'm not saying that everybody will have the same level of experience, because everybody's understanding, efforts are different. But at the end of 4 weeks, you'll definitely have a better sense of that, what I say, withdraw. In a chaos, withdraw like a tortoise withdraws itself into the shell. That ability will become stronger in you. You have less apaswaras because you have practiced for a week diligently. That is what will happen to you. You'll become better meditators, you'll become better contemplators, you'll become people with better capacity to control and withdraw minds when you don't want mind to be troubling you. That capacity building will happen. But over many, many months and probably years, they see rishis do it for ages. They are sitting in those caves and doing just this. They are not even engaged in any other activity. The only time they come out of their meditation is just to eat or clean their bodies and then go back again. That's all they do. With that kind of intensity, they take so much time to control this mind. So don't over expect from yourself. If it happens, well and good. Not we keep putting efforts. Someday it will happen. Nevertheless, on the way, the journey itself is very beautiful. You will become calmer person. You will be able to think correctly, not act based on instincts, but act based on discrimination. You will become a better husband, better father, better teacher, better student. In every field, you will start becoming better. Because you will not react to situations. You will be able to think and respond to it. That's a huge difference to the quality of life. So these are the benefits that will any which ways come to you. Even if Aham Brahmasmi has not been realized, by constantly meditating on it, someday it will become yours. That experience will become yours. So take your time. At the same time, ensure that you do it consistently. Consistency is the key. If one day you have breakfast, don't you have breakfast the second day? You have breakfast every day. Every day we have lunch. Every day we sleep. That is why body is growing. Suppose there is no consistency in eating and sleeping, your body will become full of diseases and not grow properly. Same thing applies to this effort. It's very simple. It's just that you have to put effort. And the best part is that you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to subscribe to some courses, you don't have to go to a classroom, and you don't have to spend anything on it. As you are, where you are, in your room, in your home, in your hostel, find a quiet corner and that too such a beautiful place, you see. But here is a time, such a beautiful place, beautiful weather. Doesn't look like summer at all. Every third day, rain god is kind enough to send showers and cool the place. And nice, pleasant breeze cools your body and mind. Nature all around. Nobody has told you not to go for a walk, not to go near the farms or the hills or watch a sunset or a sunrise. Everything is given to you. You have to use it. So do that. And you don't have to necessarily sit only and meditate. Even walking can be meditation. Suppose you want to take a walk alone in solitude. You don't want any disturbance. You can do that too. Just take a small solitary walk around the place or go to a corner where you feel peace, sit down there. Could be anywhere. But make it a habit. See, he told just now, 1,000 discourses he has heard. And thousands and thousands and thousands have heard these thousands of discourses. But how many of them have taken it seriously? That was the problem of Bhagavad Pada, Govinda Bhagavad Pada. He had plenty of disciples. But how many were taking the message seriously? One Shankaracharya took it seriously. Look what he has done to the world. I can never thank Shankaracharya enough for giving us the India of today and the world of tomorrow because of his effort of yesterday. It is his personal conviction. One disciple changed the fate of the entire nation, and I am sure this will change the fate of the rest of the world someday. Imagine if I have 10 such disciples who are so serious about what I am saying. What can I do? I can change the entire world. That is all that I am asking for. Some people should be worthy disciples who take this message so seriously. That kind of intensity of practice is what I am asking for. And as I said, it is not even very difficult. This is the most fortunate time. I want to get some people passing the exams. I have already brought down the threshold, brought down the difficulty level, because I want children to pass. The passing marks are really low. If you put little effort, you will pass. At this point of time, if you don't make the best use of this opportunity, when again is the question. When again? There was a lady, she was having a lot of difficulties, diseases, and that went to her family, children, everybody suffered. I asked her once, see, this is come because of your Purva Janma, this is the Prarabdha, you are suffering. If you are too much you are suffering, I have choice. I can remove the suffering for this birth, but then you will have to suffer for it some other birth. I cannot cancel it. You decide whether you want to suffer now or later. Her answer is, Swami, this birth I have you with me. I rather suffer in this birth. Next birth I don't know whether I will have you by my side. I will go through the suffering, she said. Because you are there with me in this birth, I can always depend on you. Next birth, if you are not there, where will I go with this suffering? That is the thing. This birth you have got me. Next birth we don't know. So do it now. This is the time, this is the place, this is the right situation. Imagine if all the construction work starts, Bharat. All the time vendors will be calling for daily, you will have 200 calls. Where you will find those 10 minutes in between those 200 calls? If all this travel starts and we start traveling all around the world, there is nobody here, no listening, no satsang, no thinking. This is the best opportunity and it is getting over. There is only 1 month left before it gets over. So before that month gets over, these 4 weeks, practice that. And you enjoy it. Suppose it becomes too difficult, there is no hard and fast rule. You have to make it for 20 minutes. Before 20 minutes, you cannot get up. Not like that. Whatever is comfortable, begin with that. 2 minutes I have been able to sit fine to begin with that. But next day, try to sit for 3 minutes. Next day, try to increase it to 4 minutes. And slowly. So I told, if 9 to 11 seconds, you can keep your focus on one thing. That is dharana. Imagine, how many seconds? 9 seconds is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Over. If these 9 seconds you could keep your thought on one object, that is dharana. First step you have reached. But try 9 seconds, 8.5 seconds it will be there. After that it will disappear somewhere. That mind, will escape. It will tease you. You'll think that 7, 8, 8.5 is last. Again you begin from 1 because this doesn't happen like that. 8.5 plus 1 second, 9. Like it goes from 0. It resets itself to 0. And again start. 1, 2, I am Brahma, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am... Start again. I am Brahman, I am Brahman. You get my point. That's why I said first don't try dharana. Try to think whatever is easy for you to think. You want to keep a saguna bhakti, you keep a form in front of you and only 9 seconds keep. All right, don't worry about the thought at this point in time. Anything. Forget anything. They do candle meditation, they do thumb meditation, just dharana only. Thumb is God or not, they are not thinking. Their idea is to keep the mind focused. You can keep anything else that you love. Samosa. Anything that you love. But 9 seconds you have to keep your mind on that. That should be in front of your eyes, not in your mouth. Front of your eyes. Or close your eyes and in your mind. Focus. 9 seconds is all that is dharana required. To get those 9 seconds right, 90s and 90s of minutes have to be spent. But with lot of previous births, punyam that you already have, all of you. You already have done all this before. This is not new to you. But you have forgotten and you have lost it on the way. So now you do it, practice it again. So these 9 seconds is dharana. See, very simple. 9 to 11 seconds, that is the period. That is dharana. Multiply it by 9 times. Means close to a 9 into 9 is equal to 1.5 minutes. That is it, it is. 80 seconds, 60 seconds, 1 minute, 120. 1.5 minutes, if you can keep that, that is dhyana. Can you believe just 1.5 minutes? Is it not very motivating? 1.5 minutes, you have to keep your mind steady on one thing. That is all dhyana is. You have become expert in meditation. 1.5 minutes if you keep your mind on one thing. How many years you are old? 30 years, 20 years, 18 years, 16 years. So many years you have lived doing so many things. All I am asking, 1.5 minutes you live, keeping your mind steady on one thing. That's all is dhyana. Nothing beyond that. Now these 1.5 minutes multiplied by again 9 times. I'm not even saying 11. Let me go to the lower range, not the higher range. 9, 9, 9. 9 into 9, 81. Again into 9. That is the number of minutes that you should keep your mind on. That will not come more than 12.5 minutes. That's it. I was thinking 20 minutes. Look. 12.5 minutes you can keep your mind on something. You are in the state of oneness. You are in the state of samadhi. How easy. 9 seconds dharana, 1.5 minutes dhyana, 12.5 minutes samadhi. It means all these rishis who have been sitting in Himalayas for years, after giving up family life, giving up all the pleasures, comforts, jobs, food, and hiding in a corner somewhere peacefully, you will ask me, do you mean to say 12.5 minutes they are not able to keep their mind together? My answer is yes, for most of them. Most of them are not able to keep that more than 12.5 minutes. Those say sit for 4 hours for morning, let's say morning session of meditation. They get complete 12.5 hours of half minutes of absorption they're not able to get. Maybe at 10 minutes, 9 minutes it breaks away. And then they work again to bring it back. But they keep working, they don't give up because they want to be in that state forever. That's all is samadhi. This is all technically I am saying, 9 into 9 into 9. That's all is required. Imagine as a human how unfortunate it is that we have spent all of life eating, enjoying, making merry, having pleasures, and haven't found those 12.5 minutes to keep our mind steady on this thought that I am divine. Look at the irony of human birth. And without human birth, you cannot attain. The best part is even the gods have to come to human yoni, the form, before they can ascend to this state of Brahman. They can always be paripalakas, they are paripaka palakas, they are deities which are responsible for different parts of the universe, for water, for air, for fire. They are all there in the subtle. But even if they want to attain this Brahman and get rid of the ignorance that they are deities and they are not Brahman, that ignorance, they'll have to go through a human birth. There is no other way. This is the final last stage. After this only Brahman. So imagine you have already got the human birth. First you should thank yourself, congratulate yourself, thank your parents and whoever. Second, you have got this idea that the goal of human birth is not khana, pina, sona, marna. The whole of human birth is about realizing who you are. You have got that. Theoretically, you have got, all of us have got right. In India, most of the people know, if you ask them, I want mukti, they will say. I want moksha, without knowing what they're asking. But I don't know when I'll get mukti from this. Mostly mukti from this daughter-in-law, mukti from this son-in-law. But that is not mukti. Mukti from poverty, mukti is mokshaya. You are free from your own mind. You are free from the clutches of your own mind. That is mukti. That's all is required. In 30 days of effort, imagine if you are able to even achieve 1.5 minutes of dhyana, I would think you have done great. Don't feel bad. Even if you achieve 9 seconds of dharana, I will still consider you have done well. Because this mind is chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Pramadi balavadranam. Very difficult to keep hold of this mind. Very, very difficult it is. And Krishna says also very nicely, asanchayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam. Very difficult to control mind, I know. You come back and say, Swami, I tried, so difficult. What will I tell you? I know it is difficult, without doubt. But abhyasena yogena tato. Abhyasa yoga. Yogena vairagyena cha gruhyate. Abhyasa is the first step, vairagya is the second. That is what you are doing. Abhyasa for 2 weeks and vairagya for the next 2 weeks. First 2 weeks is only abhyasa, observing the mind, observing your breath, controlling the breath and ensuring that the mind is slowing down. Second 2 weeks is vairagya. Get rid of all that which is unwanted, focus on one thought. Till that thought becomes one with you. So first week if you achieve nothing, just observing your mind and noting down, I am fine. Second week, you should try to keep your mind steady for that 9 seconds by controlling your breath. Again third week, try to push it to 1.5 minutes of focused thinking on one thought. As I said, I am not saying Aham Brahmasmi is the thought. Any thought is okay. Keep that and later replace it with something else. And the last stage is, you become that thought. You realize that thought. And how it will happen? For every person it will happen differently. It will just reveal to you at any moment. And suddenly you will experience, what you will experience? As I said, no audio video show. Only a deep sense of peace. You will know it is. See, that is the problem. How can I explain sweetness to somebody who has never tasted sweet? I can tell you it's a very, 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 very nice feeling when you eat sweet. It's better than eating a salty food, it is better than eating a spicy food, it is much better than eating a bitter or a sour thing. It is something you have to experience to know. That's how I can explain sweetness to you. Somebody who has never seen colors, red color, how can I explain red color to the person? I can at best say it's not like blue, it is more vibrant than blue. Is it like yellow? No, it is far deeper than yellow. Is it like green? No, it is far more, I can go on explaining, but unless I see the red color, I don't know what it is. So to see that, to experience that is the key. And that will come by and by. But one thing again I am repeating, the thresholds have been brought down because we want more and more jnanis in the world now than anybody else. And to create those jnanis, this is the seed bed. So the thresholds have come down. It's possible to jump over, jump across, a crossover now. Once things normalize and everything goes back to the higher level again, then you are going to be, you'll have to do double. I will increase it from 9 to 11 seconds. Just increasing 2 seconds, you'll know the toughness of it. Sounds like 2 seconds. 1, 2. 2 seconds more, you have to keep the mind steady, and that multiplies into 11 and multiplies into 11. 12 and a half minutes will go to some 20 minutes. Then it will be all the more difficult. So why I am saying is that you must be thinking, what is this suddenly from Bhakti Swami is going into this jnana? Because Bhakti should lead to jnana. See, Bhakti is not the end of everything. Jnana only is the end at the end. Bhakti is the way. Why Bhakti helps you? Studies your mind, purifies your mind. You have only one God to focus on. You don't have 10 people. Your mind is not cluttered with all kinds of unwanted thoughts. That is why Bhakti helps you. Seva helps you. But at the end, jnana does not come, then this bhakti is also no use. Because it has not brought you. Many bhaktas are there, very egoistic. At the end, they just believe that they are the best and they are the greatest. Narada was like that. I told, he said once, who is the greatest devotee? And Vishnu said, that man on the earth, that farmer is the greatest devotee. And Narada said, what? What are you talking? I have been chanting your name all the time. I know all the Shastras. I know Vishnu Sahasranam by rote. I can chant anything. I talk about you all the time. And you calling that farmer as a bhakta is not even looking like, he's not even a Brahmin. He doesn't even know Vedas. He doesn't even know Shastras. Doesn't do any upasana. Go and find out. He goes there and sees what? The Brahmin wakes up in the morning or the farmer wakes up in the morning. The first thing he says is, Narayana. That's all. And then goes about doing his things, go to the farm. Afternoon, going to have his meal? Narayana, he says. And then finally, at the end of the day, when he comes back home, before he goes to sleep, he closes his eyes, remembers Narayana. And Narada is standing there counting 1, 2, 3. 3 times, that to Narayana, not even Sahasranamas. One, just Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. He's the greatest devotee. He goes to Vishnu and complains. How can he be the greatest devotee? Then Vishnu says, you will find out for yourself. Now I'll give you a pitcher of oil. Put it on your head and just go around the world once and come back. Make sure not a drop of oil falls from this pitcher. That's all you do. I'll declare you the greatest devotee. Oh, that's a very simple task. I go around the world so many times a day. That's what Narada does. Goes from here to there, creates a fight there, goes from there, creates another fight anywhere. So anybody who does that, I call them Narada in the ashram. Look at this Narada. Goes from this house to that house and creates trouble for everybody. So this Narada said, I can finish the round of the world in no time. That is very easy for me. So he puts the pitcher on his head and goes around the world carefully, because command is not a drop of oil should fall. Finishes the round and comes back to the same place, ecstatic. I have achieved it. Not a drop of oil fell from the pitcher. I must be declared the greatest devotee now by Swami, by Narayana. And when he says proudly to Narayana, see, I have done what you asked me to do. Narayana says, yes, you did what I asked you to do, but how many times did you chant my name? And Narada thinks, not even once. I didn't even think about Narayana. I was only thinking about the pitcher and the oil. Then Narayana tells him, one small pitcher of oil took away all your attention from me into itself. That man has a grihasti, house to look after, family to look after, crops to take care of, fields to take care of, deal with so many other problems in life. Still he remembers me thrice with complete Shraddha. He is a greater devotee. So this devotee business can lead to a lot of ego and arrogance. All devotees are not going to cannot claim to be jnanis. But all jnanis will definitely be devotees. So when your devotion ripens, you become a jnani by default. If it's still green and raw, you're still maybe a devotee in your own terms. So that kind of jnana is the end of everything. Advaita darshanam jnanam. When you become one, not two, that is jnanam. All at the end result of all our efforts is the jnana only, nothing else. Nothing else. So that is the effort, that is why I'm telling you to put that effort also. Your hearts are getting purified. It means it's easier for you to keep your mind steady than what it was before. Your mind is steady. Your distractions are less. So your thoughts that clutter your mind also will be less. Less traffic on the road, that's how you can think. So it's easier for you to drive. So this is the best time. Use it well. In fact, I wanted to initiate a study of Upanishads. All the 10 Upanishads, there are many Upanishads, there are 1,000 Upanishads. But Shankaracharya, again, his grace, he went and studied most of it, and then he came up with 10 major Upanishads. And he said that if you study these Upanishads, more or less it covers the entire gamut of teachings of all Upanishads and Vedas. So many times people have written Upanishads. One boy has written this question to me, I couldn't answer that day. He asked, Swami, you said in Upanishads there is a concept of impersonal God, Brahman. There are no other lower gods mentioned like Vishnu, Shiva and things. But some Upanishads like Narayana Upanishad is there, Mahanarayana Upanishad. In that there is a Narayana who is the supreme deity. So I want to tell him that not all Upanishads are actual Upanishads. Some have been given the title of Upanishads, but they are not the original Upanishads. So these kind of Upanishads which are based on a personal God or deity have been created by people by adding a title Upanishad. By adding the title, it sounds like it's an Upanishad, so people will pay attention. That was the idea. Some people stuck this word Upanishad behind their own thing because they wanted it to become popular with people. Because Shankara made Upanishads very popular. So even Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, all these acharyas have read Upanishads. But then they took to a path which they felt is more to their liking, that's all. But they all know what it is. So I wanted to initiate, but I think I should do this a little later because you people should now meditate more on these thoughts. And once this you digest a little more and I can feel that you have digested or not, based on that we will take this study. Idea is to keep your mind continuously absorbed, like gulab jamun has to stay in the syrup. The moment it comes out, it dries up. So I want your minds to be 24 hours soaked in that syrup of this chintana. That is why I am speaking. Otherwise, I could have decided not to have these satsangs too. But I want your minds as bhajan boys to main attention to all of you because you have to be the people. When you sing, the next person should attain realization because of your perfect rendition of the bhajan with the complete bhava. With that realization you should render. Here onwards, consider realization as our religion. No Hindu religion, no Christian religion, no Muslim religion, nothing. Realization is our religion. Why we are born? To realize ourselves. Everything else should fit into this scheme of things. That is how one should think from here onwards. And Sanatana Dharma is all about realization. This is not about any rituals. They're all karma kandas, lower things. But the essence of this is realization. All right? So I'll leave this with these thoughts. Let us see how much you put efforts. And as I said, as you put effort, you'll experience grace. Every stage of effort will unlock more of grace. And that's how you will be able to achieve things. You will be surprised faster than what you expected. Some people will say, Swami, I did not need the 4th week at all. 3rd week itself I've understood. Some people may come, I don't need 3rd week. 2nd week itself is better for me. Because you will see how grace is enhancing your efforts. How what little you do is getting much, much better, much bigger because of the grace that is by your side. But it won't come in unless you have cleared that level of effort. That's how it would be.
प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा प्रेमामृत बरसाओ जनन मरण से पार उतारो,
जनन मरण से पार उतारो।
दया करो कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो दया करो भगवान, दया करो कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा,
प्रेमामृत बरसाओ बाबा।
दया करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान, कृपा करो तुम्हारी दया बिन कैसा जीवन,
तुम्हारी दया बिन कैसा जीवन।
रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम,
रोम में बसने वाले राम।
रोम रोम में बसने वाले राम,
रोम में बसने वाले राम।
जनन मरण से पार उतारो,
जनन मरण से पार उतारो।
दया करो भगवान, दया करो भगवान, कृपा करो भगवान,